In 2026, the most dangerous thing you can do for your financial future is to get your foot on the property ladder. We have been conditioned to believe that renting is throwing money away and that a mortgage is a forced savings account that guarantees a comfortable retirement. This is a mathematical hallucination. In reality, the modern homeowner is the most financially fragile individual in the economy, a person who is asset-rich but cash-poor. You are being sold a 30-year debt sentence disguised as a dream. Society tells you to buy as much house as you can qualify for because they aren't making any more land. But what they don't tell you is that your house is not an investment. It is a high-maintenance liability that consumes your most productive capital. Today, I am going to prove to you with brutal, cold-blooded arithmetic that the standard path of home ownership is a wealth-shredding machine. I am going to show you why the renter who understands math will end up with 3 times the liquid wealth of the owner who follows the rules. You aren't failing because you can't afford a home. You are being saved from a system designed to harvest your liquidity for the next 3 decades. The reason you fell for this is rooted in a psychological phenomenon known as the endowment effect, combined with loss aversion. From the moment you were old enough to speak, the system planted a seed that renting is temporary and buying is permanent. This creates a visceral fear of wasting rent money. The system exploits this by framing a mortgage as paying yourself, but this is a psychological sleight of hand. When you pay a mortgage, you aren't paying yourself. You are paying a bank for the privilege of debt, a government for the privilege of location, and a contractor for the privilege of maintenance. You feel the crushing weight of your monthly bills because the system was designed to keep you stationary. A stationary worker is a taxable, predictable, and compliant worker. By tethering you to a physical structure, the banks ensure they have a claim on your labor for the next 360 months. It is not your fault you feel the urge to buy. You are fighting a multi-billion-dollar marketing machine that has successfully turned a shelter, a basic human need, into a speculative financial instrument that benefits everyone except the person living inside it. Let's look at the hidden math that your real estate agent and mortgage broker conveniently forgot to mention. We are going to look at scenario A, the responsible homeowner. We will call him Homeowner Tobi. Tobi buys a $400,000 house in 2026. He puts 5% down, which is $20,000. He secures a 7% interest rate on a $380,000 loan. On paper, Tobi's mortgage is roughly $2,500 a month. But here is the ownership tax the system hides. Tobi pays property taxes at 1.5%, which is $500 a month. His homeowner's insurance is $150. His maintenance, using the conservative 1% rule, is another $330 a month. Tobi's actual cost to exist in that house is $3,480 every single month. Over 7 years, the average time before a starter home is sold, Tobi will spend $292,000 in total housing costs. Now, let's look at scenario B, the mathematical renter. We will call him Liquid Larry. Larry rents a similar house for $2,600 a month. Larry takes the $20,000 down payment he didn't give to the bank and puts it into an index fund averaging 9%. Every month, Larry takes the $880 difference between his rent and Tobi's total ownership cost and invests that too. 7 years later, the house has appreciated by 3% a year and is now worth $492,000. Tobi feels rich. He thinks he made $92,000. But Tobi has to sell. He pays a 6% realtor commission, which is $29,000. He pays closing costs of $5,000. He subtracts his remaining mortgage balance of $350,000. Tobi walks away with a check for $108,000. But wait, Tobi spent $292,000 over those 7 years to get that $108,000 check. His net unrecoverable cost was $184,000. Now look at Larry. Larry's initial $20,000 plus his monthly $880 investment has grown. In 7 years, at 9% return, Larry's brokerage account is worth $142,000 in cold, hard, liquid cash. Larry didn't pay for a new roof. Larry didn't pay property taxes. Larry didn't pay a realtor. Larry's money worked for him, while Tobi worked for his house. Larry is $34,000 more than Tobi and zero debt. Tobi is asset-rich, but he's actually $60,000 poorer in terms of total wealth-building potential than the man who wasted money on rent. Consider the real-life case of Tobi. Tobi is 34 years old. He bought his house because he wanted stability. In 2026, Tobi's employer announces a move to a new city, and they offer Tobi a $40,000 raise to move with them. But Tobi is stuck. The housing market in his specific neighborhood has cooled. If he sells now, he will lose money after commissions. He can't afford to move, and he can't afford to stay without the raise. Tobi is house poor. He's an accidental landlord who tries to rent his house out only to find that the market rent doesn't even cover his mortgage and taxes. Tobi is now a debt slave to a pile of bricks 300 miles away. This is the reality of the asset-rich but cash-poor scam. Tobi has equity on a spreadsheet, but he can't buy groceries with equity. He can't take a career risk with equity. He's one major repair away from financial ruin because all of his wealth is trapped in his walls. According to 2026 consumer data, middle-class homeowners are carrying the lowest levels of liquid cash in history, despite having record-high home equity. The system has successfully convinced you to lock your money in a vault and give the bank the only key. When the bank sees you have equity, they offer you a home equity line of credit, selling you your own money back to you at a high interest rate. It is the ultimate grift. The reality check is a primary residence is a consumption item, not an investment. You should only buy a house when you are ready to stop growing your wealth and start consuming your wealth. If you want to survive the 2026 economy, you must adopt a liquidity-first strategy. First, ignore the rent is a waste propaganda. Rent is not a waste. It is the maximum price you pay for shelter. A mortgage is the minimum price you pay for shelter. Renting buys you mobility, and in a rapidly shifting economy, mobility is the most valuable asset you can own. Second, calculate the price-to-rent ratio. If the cost of owning, including taxes, interest, and maintenance, is higher than the cost of renting, the math dictates you rent and invest the difference. You are essentially getting the landlord to subsidize your investment portfolio. Third, understand the opportunity cost of the down payment. That $20,000, $50,000, or $100,000 you give to the bank on day one is dead capital. It is no longer compounding for you. It is sitting in a non-productive asset. If you kept that money in the market, it would likely double every 7 to 10 years. In your house, it only grows if the entire market goes up, and even then, you have to pay a realtor 6% just to touch it. Fourth, prioritize liquid freedom. True security doesn't come from a paid-off house. It comes from having enough liquid assets to pay your rent for 5 years without a job. The system wants you house-rich because it makes you dependent. When you are cash-rich, you are dangerous to the system because you can't be coerced. Homeownership is a scam because it exploits your biological need for safety to turn you into a long-term debtor. It turns your most valuable years into a struggle to maintain an asset that depreciates in utility every day. You are being sold the dream so that you don't notice you've been robbed of your agility. Your house is not a savings account. It is a liability that wears a tuxedo. The real winners in the real estate game aren't the people with the sold signs in their front yards. They are the lenders who collect the interest and the government that collects the taxes regardless of whether your investment goes up or down. If you want to be free, you have to be willing to live in a rented box while your wealth explodes in the background. The path to real wealth isn't paved with granite countertops and manicured lawns. It's paved with the liquidity to walk away from any cage the system tries to build for you. But the housing trap is just the beginning. The same banks that want you in a 30-year mortgage are the ones pushing you towards safe 401k plans that are currently being eroded by silent inflation. If you think the asset-rich, cash-poor trap of housing is bad, wait until you see the math on the retirement mirage that is currently wiping out the last of the middle-class nest eggs. Stop buying the lie. Start buying the math, because in a world of stationary debt, the only way to win is to stay liquid.